Megyn Kelly has broken her silence on Nicole Kidman's shocking divorce from Keith Urban, and what she's allegedly said flips the entire story upside down. For years, the world saw Keith as the devoted husband, the man who called Nicole his savior, the man who said she rescued him from his darkest times, the man who worshipped her every step of their 19-year marriage. But now a new narrative is spreading across conservative media circles, one reportedly fueled by Megyn Kelly herself. And this time, Keith isn't the grateful husband, he's the opportunist. According to reports, Megyn is suggesting that Keith Urban didn't just fall in love with Nicole Kidman, he used her. He saw what being married to one of Hollywood's biggest stars could do for his image, his career, and his access to a world he could never reach alone. He took that opportunity, built his brand for nearly 2 decades, and then walked away once he got what he wanted. It's a theory that completely changes how people view one of Hollywood's longest marriages. And if the evidence Megyn allegedly points to is true, then everything we thought we knew about Keith and Nicole's relationship may have been an illusion. To understand why Megyn Kelly's alleged comments matter, you have to understand who she is and the weight her voice carries. Megyn Kelly isn't just another celebrity commentator. She's a veteran journalist, a former Fox News anchor, and the host of The Megyn Kelly Show. Her reputation was built on challenging mainstream narratives, especially those that come out of Hollywood. For years, she has openly questioned celebrity relationships and how they're portrayed in the media. She's skeptical of the polished love stories shown on red carpets. She digs beneath the surface, asking who benefits most and who's being protected by the narrative. So, when Megyn Kelly reportedly claims that Keith Urban used Nicole Kidman, it isn't random gossip. It's analysis. It's her looking at the balance of power and asking the uncomfortable question: who gained more from this marriage, Nicole or Keith? And according to sources discussing her alleged comments, Megyn's answer is clear. Keith Urban benefited far more than Nicole ever did. So what does it mean when Megyn Kelly allegedly says Keith used Nicole? The reports circulating across conservative media and social commentary platforms suggest Megyn's argument centers on 4 major points. First, Keith leveraged Nicole's fame for global recognition. Before marrying Nicole in 2006, Keith Urban was already a successful country musician, but outside of Nashville and country radio, he wasn't a household name. Nicole Kidman changed that overnight. Their marriage made him instantly recognizable to audiences who had never even heard his music. Red carpets, paparazzi photos, award shows. Suddenly, Keith wasn't just a musician. He was Nicole Kidman's husband. Second, he gained access to Hollywood circles that his country career alone couldn't have opened. Through Nicole, Keith was invited to the Oscars, Golden Globes, film premieres, and elite parties where connections are currency. These were worlds reserved for A-list actors and directors, not country stars. Third, Keith benefited from Nicole's wealth and lifestyle while maintaining his own independence. He toured hundreds of days per year, essentially living like a single man on the road, while Nicole raised their daughters in Nashville. He enjoyed the image of stability without the reality of domestic responsibility. And fourth, he married up, in fame, wealth, and global influence. Nicole didn't need Keith for her success, but Keith's career undeniably skyrocketed after marrying her. According to those analyzing Megyn's alleged argument, this isn't mutual benefit, it's exploitation. Nicole's fame, wealth, and power were assets Keith used to elevate himself into mainstream celebrity territory. To understand why Megyn's alleged claim resonates, you only need to look at Keith's career timeline. Before 2006, Keith Urban was well known in country music. He had radio hits, loyal fans, and industry respect. But outside that bubble, few people recognized his name. Then he married Nicole Kidman. Suddenly, Keith wasn't just performing at country awards shows, he was walking Oscar red carpets. Entertainment magazines that never covered country music were writing about him. Late-night hosts who didn't book country artists were inviting him on their couches. The visibility alone was transformative. And then came the Grammy years. In 2006, the year he married Nicole, Keith won his first Grammy. He won again in 2009 and 2010. Coincidence, or did his higher profile make Grammy voters more aware of his work? Then came American Idol. In 2012, Keith joined the show as a judge, a massive leap from country radio to primetime television. Millions of Americans saw him weekly, not as a niche musician, but as a mainstream celebrity. Would that opportunity have come without his A-list connections through Nicole? According to those discussing Megyn's alleged perspective, probably not. This was the pattern. Keith's biggest career milestones came after marrying Nicole. His public image evolved from Nashville star to international personality, and Megyn reportedly believes that's no accident. Then comes the financial side, and this, according to reports, is where Megyn's theory gains serious traction. Nicole Kidman is one of the highest paid actresses in the world. Forbes ranked her at the top of their list in 2024. Her fortune is built on decades of box office hits, television success, and a thriving production company. Keith Urban, while very successful, doesn't come close to her financial tier. His wealth is estimated in the tens of millions, hers in the hundreds. The contrast matters because Megyn reportedly points to the prenup as key evidence of who benefited more. Nicole's fortune was protected from day one. The prenup kept their finances separate, meaning Keith could enjoy the lifestyle her wealth provided without ever having legal claim to it. He lived in her homes, joined her world, attended her events, and traveled in her circles, all without financial risk. And when the marriage ended, he walked away clean. No spousal support, no property battle, just a lump sum child support payment and freedom. It was, according to those discussing Megyn's alleged analysis, the perfect setup for someone who wanted access without accountability. One of the most fascinating parts of Megyn's alleged perspective is how she reportedly reinterprets Keith's rehab story, the one that defined the early days of their marriage. Everyone knows the version Keith told. 4 months after marrying Nicole, he entered rehab for alcohol addiction. Nicole staged the intervention. She stayed by his side. She became his anchor and his reason to recover. For years, Keith has publicly credited Nicole with saving his life. But Megyn's alleged reframe paints a darker picture, not of intentional deceit, but of emotional manipulation. She reportedly argues that Keith's early rehab created a powerful dynamic. Nicole became his savior. She invested in him emotionally, financially, and spiritually. She carried the burden of his recovery, and that made it much harder for her to ever walk away. If she left, she'd be abandoning the man she saved. Over the years, Keith reinforced that narrative in public speeches, interviews, and awards show tributes. Every "Nicole saved me" comment reminded her, and the public, that she was responsible for his stability. Megyn's alleged theory is that this dynamic kept Nicole locked into the relationship emotionally, even as the balance of power shifted in Keith's favor. If there's one piece of visible evidence that supports Megyn's alleged view, it's Keith's touring history. Throughout the marriage, Keith toured an estimated 200 days per year. He was constantly on the road: albums, world tours, music festivals, awards circuits. To outsiders, it looked like a man working hard for his family. But to critics analyzing the relationship, it looked like a man avoiding it. While Keith was touring, Nicole was home in Nashville, raising their daughters, handling daily routines, school events, and emotional needs. She turned down film projects that required long shoots. She built her schedule around the children. Keith didn't. Those who support Megyn's alleged perspective argue that Keith enjoyed the appearance of family life, the stability, the respectability, the devoted dad image, without the daily responsibility that came with it. And the custody arrangement from their divorce, Nicole getting 306 days, Keith just 59, reflects exactly that. According to this interpretation, the divorce didn't change their family structure. It simply made official what had been true for years. Nicole was the parent present every day, and Keith was the parent who visited occasionally between tours. When the divorce papers became public, the details stunned fans. But to those who buy into Megyn Kelly's alleged argument, they were confirmation. Keith prepaid all child support. He agreed to minimal custody. He kept his music catalog and career earnings. He left without demanding a penny from Nicole. On paper, it looked clean and respectable. But to skeptics, it looked strategic. The move of a man who came into a marriage, gained everything he needed, and walked away unscathed. His career is stronger than ever. His brand is global. His reputation remains intact. And Nicole, she's left raising 2 daughters largely alone, navigating yet another high-profile divorce while her ex continues touring the world under the same fame her name helped him build. So did Megyn Kelly actually say Keith was using her? There's no confirmed record of her exact quote in any verified transcript or public statement. The claim appears to be circulating through commentary networks, conservative podcasts, and social media discussions referencing Megyn's analysis. But regardless of whether the words came directly from her or not, the theory itself raises a powerful question. Was Keith Urban's marriage to Nicole Kidman a love story or a calculated career move? because when you trace the evidence, the timing of his career boom, the financial imbalance, the touring schedule, and the clean divorce exit, the pattern is hard to ignore. As the dust from Nicole Kidman and Keith Urban's divorce continues to settle, the public narrative is shifting faster than anyone expected. Fans once saw their marriage as one of the few genuine Hollywood love stories, a union that had survived fame, addiction, and distance. But now, the conversation isn't about heartbreak, it's about strategy. It's about how power, publicity, and perception shape the truth behind celebrity relationships. And according to what's being discussed in media circles, that's exactly what Megyn Kelly was trying to highlight. She didn't necessarily accuse Keith Urban of being cruel or heartless. Her alleged analysis focuses on the psychology of fame. It's the idea that in Hollywood, love and opportunity often blur into one another. People don't just marry for affection, they marry for access. And when you look at the timeline of Nicole and Keith's relationship through that lens, it starts to look less like a love story and more like a mutual business partnership that ran its course. Keith gained visibility and credibility outside of Nashville, while Nicole gained emotional security and the image of domestic balance after years of being portrayed as the cold movie star in her post-Tom Cruise era. For a while, they both needed what the other provided, until they didn't. Observers claim that Megyn's alleged breakdown of the relationship isn't just gossip, it's a mirror reflecting Hollywood's larger problem. The entertainment industry thrives on perfect couples. The illusion of stable love humanizes celebrities and keeps audiences emotionally invested. When stars appear relatable, they sell more. More tickets, more music, more brand deals. That illusion is profitable. And that's where Nicole and Keith excelled. For nearly 2 decades, they sold the idea of a grounded marriage. Country star meets Oscar winner, simple love conquers fame. But behind that image, the cracks were showing. Keith's constant touring wasn't just exhausting, it became symbolic. Every city, every performance, every interview reinforced the narrative of a hardworking artist devoted to his family. But according to critics, it also allowed him to live separately, emotionally and physically, from his responsibilities. When he was on the road, Nicole handled everything at home: the children's education, the house, the logistics, the emotional work. She once said in an interview that she preferred living away from Los Angeles because it was simpler for the family, a quote that, in hindsight, now sounds like quiet resignation. There's also the issue of timing. Keith's sudden willingness to separate reportedly came right as he reached another professional milestone: a new tour, a new album, renewed popularity. It's as if, once again, he exited a chapter of his personal life just as his professional life peaked. Megyn Kelly's alleged theory highlights that pattern. Keith Urban's biggest personal transformations always seem to coincide with major professional wins. When he went to rehab, his music became more personal and authentic. When he married Nicole, he became a household name. And now, after the divorce, his public image is being reshaped yet again. This time, as a mature, emotionally evolved artist entering a new era. But what about Nicole? Her silence in the wake of the split is almost deafening. For someone who has spent decades being one of the most articulate and composed women in Hollywood, she hasn't given a single interview addressing the divorce directly. Her team has kept the focus on her work, on her upcoming films and projects. Yet behind the scenes, the tone feels different. Industry insiders claim she has become far more cautious about who she trusts, more private, and more selective about public appearances. The woman who once spoke freely about her love life now avoids it entirely. That silence, according to those echoing Megyn Kelly's alleged observations, says everything. There's also an emotional layer that can't be ignored. Nicole has been through 2 highly public divorces. One from Tom Cruise, where power dynamics and image control dominated the narrative. And now from Keith Urban, where emotional investment and quiet endurance defined the story. Both relationships seem to have left her carrying the emotional weight. With Cruise, she was silenced. With Urban, she was patient. In both cases, she ended up alone, rebuilding from the ruins of an image that the public once adored. Some say this is the curse of the savior archetype in celebrity culture. Nicole saved Keith, but no one ever saved her. If Megyn's alleged argument is correct, the world may have misunderstood the real Nicole Kidman. The actress the public sees, elegant, unbothered, perfectly poised, might not be the full picture. Behind that image could be a woman who keeps choosing men who need saving, hoping love will finally be enough, only to discover that she's been used as a stepping stone in their stories. And this isn't unique to her. Hollywood has a long history of women being the emotional engines behind their partner's success. The woman nurtures, the man rises, and when he reaches his peak, he moves on. The story repeats decade after decade with different faces but the same script. It's not hard to see why Megyn Kelly's alleged commentary hit such a nerve. It challenges the fairy tale. It asks uncomfortable questions about gender, fame, and emotional labor. It forces people to reconsider whether love in Hollywood is ever really equal. Because when one person has more fame, more money, or more influence, the relationship becomes unbalanced from the start. The less powerful partner often adapts, absorbs, and benefits, sometimes intentionally, sometimes unconsciously. The more powerful one sacrifices pieces of themselves until they realize they've built someone else's empire at the cost of their own peace. And that's where the Kidman-Urban story seems to land. It's not about villains or victims. It's about imbalance. It's about how one person's growth came at the quiet expense of another's emotional exhaustion. Nicole's transformation after the divorce, the sudden focus on solitude, the calm reclusion, the subtle shift in her public tone, suggests she's reclaiming control. She's been through this cycle before, and maybe this time, she's learned not to let the narrative consume her. Meanwhile, Keith's post-divorce persona has been carefully curated. His publicist's statements, his interviews, his on-stage demeanor all paint the image of a man at peace, deeply respectful of his ex, and fully focused on fatherhood. It's a smart move. It keeps his fanbase loyal and his reputation intact. But critics argue it's also emotionally convenient. By presenting himself as the calm, grounded co-parent, Keith avoids scrutiny. He sidesteps questions about accountability, emotional absence, or ambition. It's a polished narrative that fits perfectly within the industry's expectations of the good guy musician. The real turning point, however, may come from how the media continues to treat Nicole. Historically, divorced women in Hollywood are treated as either tragic or defiant, rarely as complete humans. They're pitied or sensationalized. But Nicole's approach, quiet strength, professional focus, and emotional dignity could redefine what post-divorce power looks like in the entertainment world. She's not crying on talk shows or firing back on social media. She's just moving forward, which, in today's culture of oversharing, is its own form of rebellion. Megyn Kelly's alleged comments have done more than spark gossip. They've reignited a conversation about what success really costs women in Hollywood. Every red carpet smile, every glowing interview, every public gesture of support hides layers of compromise that the public never sees. Nicole Kidman once again becomes the face of that conversation, the woman who gives everything for love and receives silence in return. And whether or not Keith Urban consciously used her, the end result feels the same. He walked away thriving. She walked away quieter. Still, some fans are pushing back against this version of events, arguing that the marriage was genuinely loving, that Keith's devotion was real, and that not every success story needs to be dissected for ulterior motives. To them, Megyn Kelly's alleged interpretation feels too cynical, too analytical, stripping away the human emotion that surely existed between them. After all, no one stays married for 19 years purely for strategy. There had to be love, laughter, and shared dreams. Maybe what happened between Nicole and Keith wasn't exploitation. Maybe it was evolution. Two people who grew in different directions, whose lives could no longer fit inside the same frame. And maybe that's the most painful part of this entire story. That the truth doesn't have to be malicious to be tragic. Sometimes love simply expires. Sometimes the version of you that someone fell in love with no longer exists. Maybe Keith Urban didn't set out to use Nicole Kidman. Maybe he just became someone else along the way. Someone whose ambitions no longer aligned with hers. And maybe Nicole, tired of playing savior, finally let go. Still, one can't ignore how cleanly the pieces fit together when viewed through the lens of power and ambition. The marriage began with rescue and ended with release. It began with one person saving another and ended with that person standing alone again. Whether that's coincidence or design, it's what makes this story so haunting. Because at its core, it's not just about Nicole and Keith, it's about every relationship where one person gives everything and the other simply takes what they need until there's nothing left to take. As the public watches what both stars do next, the truth will unfold not in statements or interviews, but in their choices. In the roles Nicole accepts, in the music Keith releases, in the way they speak, or refuse to speak about one another. The story isn't over yet. It's just entered its most revealing chapter. And if Megyn Kelly's alleged insights are even partially accurate, then Hollywood's golden couple was never as golden as it seemed. Because in the end, the illusion always breaks. The red carpets fade, the awards lose their shine, and what's left is the quiet truth. That love, even in the brightest spotlight, can be the loneliest place in the world.